Tonight is March 16th, 2026. It's our regular Board of Selectmen's meeting. At this time, would you all stand up and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where did Rick Romney go?
We'll start with a roll call.
Yep. Tonight, we have one of our members who was unable to make it. We do a by-person roll call. Josh, I'll let you go first.
Here, Joshua Douglas.
Yep, Jim.
Here.
Here, Richard Manzo.
And Mark LeMay. And, oh yeah, I forgot, sorry, blame me, Allison,
Cindy Sudbury here.
our newest select board member here. Congratulations, glad to have you on board. Where's Rick and will help me? Oh, there you are, okay. Rick, could you come up? We're gonna do your presentation first. We're gonna kind of vary a little bit from the schedule. We're gonna do your presentation first, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good. All right. I think all you guys know who I am, but as far as the people, who am I looking there? The people that are home watching, my name's Rick Wilhelmy. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. Been in the town now for 16 years and have had a wonderful time working with a lot of you all that are sitting here as well. What we're here for is we're going to present the Robinson Color Road Community Volunteer Award. It's been 35 years in the making that this award has been in place. I should also, I'd like to acknowledge our Parks and Rec Commissioners. Nobody's here at this present time, but I'd like to acknowledge them. We have James Stekowitz, who is the chairperson, Brad Parkers, who is the vice chair, Gary Gendron, Lance Ozier, Jim Helene, Dan McInnes, Eric Emmerling, and Carl Schaubeck. These folks are the ones that help determine, we get nominations for this volunteer award. It goes in front of the commissioners, and then the commissioners make a selection. That's kind of how it rolls. The select board this current select board may not understand all this, but the Parks and Rec Commission and the select board give this award annually to a person or group that best exemplifies the spirit of volunteerism for the community of Goffstown, as shown by Clint and Lionel. This was done 35 years ago from the commission and the board at that present time, and we've just continued this going on. As we all know, for a community to be strong, it relies on volunteer resources within the community. Goffstown is a very strong community of dedicated individuals, independent groups, all volunteering in so many different ways, all with a common goal when it comes to youth programming. The goal is to provide the best social, educational experience one can receive through sports and leisure activities. This award was created based on directly what Clint and Lionel did in their time as residents of this community.
I swore in earlier.
This year, our award is kind of a little different way to do this now. Kind of cool. I like this way better. This year, our award is going to Paul Manitow. Of my 16 years, Paul has been extremely integral in our youth lacrosse program. And Derek, and I can remember back when we had first and second, when the boys were in first and second grade playing lacrosse. Who's going to be a goalie? Who knows? Let's throw a ball at him. Oh, okay, you're the goalie. All right, you can take it. Excellent. Anyhow, I go back long with Paul. Paul and his family, Sarah, Owen, Jason, Gavin, you guys have all been very active along with him in this community on this ride. From what I calculated, it's probably about 15 years, okay? So over a decade of time spent in working with youth of this community, okay? Not just youth, adults too. And all coming out for that common goal for the kids. So let's go through the list. Goffstown Junior Baseball, 2012 to 2021. My time frames might be off a little bit. President in there. That was the time when I think you guys were purchasing the property. God bless you, sir. Goffstown Parks and Recreation lacrosse coach from 2012 to 2023. I mean, and that's not just during the seasons. Paul would be the kind of guy that would say, okay, fine, these kids want to play in the wintertime. All right, let's get a bunch of kids together, let's go off and play winter lacrosse. So they play almost year-round. There's the dude, running it all. He was also the MVMS boys head lacrosse coach from 2019 to 2023, all right? And I put this one, Goffstown lacrosse developmental coach for the freshman and JV program. Paul's very instrumental today, to this present day, working with our freshmen, working with our sophomores, coming into the sport of lacrosse for the high school, really working with those kids, and still doing that. A board member, I put board, I think this is right, of the Friends of Goffstown Hockey. Very, very active with that. That entails, I mean, the amount of time he spends with live broadcasting for all the events, social media, and I think you said currently he acts as the equipment manager, the person that's making sure that the team has what they need for that current season, upcoming season. Still doing that. Also, integral piece to the beginning of our middle school hockey program. Never had a middle school hockey program. There we go, huh? We got them all over. I mean, all you guys are probably hockey players too, you know what I mean? But anyhow, very active, very dedicated to working with the kids. And also still with an active member with the Friends of the Goffstown lacrosse program too. Endless time. Sarah, I gotta tell you, man, you are the best wing woman ever there is, I'll tell you, okay? You're right there with it all.
He might disagree.
Well, we all need a good wing person. Paul, on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commissioners, myself, this greater community, the Board of Selectmen, we can't thank you enough for all your time and energy and positive things that are happening in our community. Thank you very much. As I said, it's always a good thing. Thank you, Paul. Speech.
Rick.
Oh. I think we might have to do pictures outside because they're giving me the hook.
Thank you for everybody for coming. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, guys. This is
Thank you.
great
Congratulations.
honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We'll do
Rick.
some pictures up in the hallway upstairs. All right. Sorry, keep moving.
Thank you for your time.
We'll just let these guys clear out.
Yeah, let them clear out just for a second, and then you can move on to your agenda.
That was a great way to start my first meeting. That was like fun. We're gonna do this every meeting, do we have some sort of presentation?
Well, we can create more
We
stuff.
should start doing that. It's very uplifting. No. No, all right, fine.
I'm sorry, I wanted to be here.
So my family couldn't make it because my mother is sick at home, so my husband had to stay, so we just did it.
It was like quarter of.
That's what I thought. I was here.
We were gonna do it a little bigger, but
Okay, must have just missed it.
Are you ready?
Yep. So now moving on, we're going to do the acceptance and corrections of minutes from 3/9/26, public and non-public minutes.
I'll move that we accept the 3/9/26 public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second. I was gonna give you for a second.
All right, so no corrections, no nothing, everything is good to go? All right. Do, motion to approve the minutes. We have Josh on the phone.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Abstain.
okay, perfect. All right, so that basically passes 4-1. Announcements, I think we got a few announcements in here.
No, I don't think you have any announcements in here.
Okay, no announcements. Is there anybody here this evening for public comment? Come on up. Please state your name. I know you know the drill.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry, I didn't sign it, but I will afterwards. So, Elizabeth DeBrule, 9 First Avenue. The Budget Committee has not met yet, so I'm not speaking for the committee. I'm here speaking for myself individually. And also, I came mainly to support Allison. But we're really sorry to lose her, and our loss is your guys' gain. But I know you guys are focused on, in this meeting, you're going to be focused on how you get through this year with this budget. But before we get to talking about next year's budget, I would like to put in a pitch for some sort of joint meeting or better conversation with the Budget Committee so we can all get on the same page and maybe have a clearer direction. And we can't wait until November to do that. We need to do it much earlier in the process. And like I said, I know you guys are really kind of swamped right now with sorting out what to do for the coming year. But if possible, it would be great to have this meeting before CIP begins meeting, because I think the CIP process is really broken and is contributing to this kind of budget quandary that we're in. So I just wanted to put in that pitch that I think we need to have better communication between the Budget Committee and the Select Board, and have these discussions earlier, so that we don't get kind of caught flat-footed in November.
Elizabeth, do you meet during the summer at all?
We don't generally, but
Okay.
we probably, I mean, I'm sure we could call a meeting. There's nothing prohibiting us from meeting in the summer. It's just tradition that we don't meet in the
That's what I
summer.
was thinking, if we can all agree on a date, get together and start the process.
Yes,
I
the
think
only
it's a-
thing is CIP usually starts meeting at the end of May.
Yep.
Which puts a little bit of a time crunch on us. But yeah, so we will have an organizational meeting. We'll probably do it in April because there's no rush on our end.
Yep.
But anytime after, like mid-April, would probably work for us. So,
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you for all the help as well.
sure.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I don't mean to hold you guys up. I'm just signing.
Anybody else? Public comment? Nope. Moving on to new business. We're going to elect a chair, which is done annually every year after the elections. Anybody on the board interested in bringing up a name or saying something?
If we're gonna open nominations, I'd like to nominate Jim Craig.
Okay,
I second that.
okay. That was pretty quick. Will you accept the position?
I would.
Okay. All those in favor? Josh?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes?
I guess I abstain.
Yes.
Okay. So Jim Craig will be our new director for the select board. And you don't have to do it tonight, but you'll need to elect a vice chair.
Until next week, correct?
Yeah, so your rules of procedure say no later than the second meeting, so you don't have to do it until next meeting.
And the committee assignments, 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
So the committee assignments, we typically need it either next week or the third meeting after. The only note I would make is we do have 2 meetings this week. So Wednesday morning, Highway Safety Committee meets. Hopefully,
Yep.
Selectman Lemay could attend that.
Yep, I'll be there.
And then Library Board of Trustees are Wednesday night, so if Selectman Manzo can continue to cover that. Yep. And what's been done in the past is individual members typically reach out to the chair. You do have in your packet the meetings as well as what their general meeting schedule is. So if you can let them know, top 3 or 4 of what you're looking for, Jim can kind of take that into account. If we're ready at next meeting, but if you need more time, it can go to the third
I'll
meeting.
try to be ready.
So the seat's hot and warm. It's all yours.
Thank you. Big shoes to follow.
You'll do fine.
Thank you.
You don't want to sit here? You all set right
No,
there?
that's, there we go.
So I think if you go to page 3 of your packet, you have the next item, which is the adoption of the 2026-2027 meeting schedule.
Okay. Everyone had a chance to review the schedule?
I did.
Any questions, any comments?
Nope, good for me.
You need a motion?
Yeah, I would appreciate a motion, because then we can post that on our website, post that here at Town Hall. The only thing I do want to add is, obviously, during public comment, the Budget Committee Chair has proposed a joint meeting, so there may be that additionally. Also, in early April or May, it may benefit the Select Board as well as the moderator and Town Clerk to get together to look back at town meeting, because this was the first time we used the electronic poll pads and the new voting machines. So I think it would be good just to kind of do a debrief on what went well, what we need to make some changes before we get into the state primary and the general election this fall. But I can work with Chairman Craig on that, and we can kind of set a date on and off Monday.
Okay.
Make a motion to adopt the schedule, the meeting schedule.
Second.
Okay, motion by
Richard.
Motion by Richard, second by Mark. Any more comment? No? Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes?
and Josh.
Right,
Yes.
I'm looking at him.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, so 5-0,
Yeah.
that one passes.
At your next page, on page 5, annually, the Select Board reviews the rules of procedure. This year, we do not have any recommended changes from staff, but if you have not had a chance to review this, my suggestion would be to review this and come to your next meeting, see if you want to make any modifications, and if not, just re-adopt them going into the new year.
I had a question, page 1 of 13. It's actually point 111 and 112. Does anybody know which ones are appointed by the Select Board, and which ones aren't, which ones are subject to the rules, and which ones aren't?
Oh, okay, yeah. So if you go back to page 2, you'll see your committee assignments.
Yep.
So that's really your Economic Development Council, your Parks and Rec Commission, Highway Safety Committee, Joint Loss Safety, Goffstown River Advisory, and Village Bridge, and any ad hoc committees. It does not include your statutory committees like Budget Committee, Planning Board, Historic District Commission, Board of Library Trustees, and CIP is a subcommittee of the Planning Board. So it's really those ones that aren't defined in statute. It's really mostly your ad hocs and then a few other ones that kind of fall below. And what I can do is, before your next meeting, I can provide everyone with a printed list so you know that.
Do they all know that they're subject to?
It's probably been a few years since we've reminded the staff liaison, so once you re-adopt it, we can definitely share that with them. Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Do you want to do it today, or do you want to give people a chance to review it?
What do you think?
I'm good.
in years past, and Derek can probably agree, we wait till the next meeting, so everybody's had time to look at everything.
It's okay with me.
Yeah, I
Everybody,
mean-
anybody want to wait 1 week?
Let's do that.
Okay. So we don't need to table this, there's no motion, okay.
So at page 21, the last item under new business for select board discussion are the results of the 2026 town meeting. What you have there is all of the appropriation articles and then the 4 petition articles and what the final vote was. In regards to Article 9, the operating budget, since that failed, we are in default budget. There is a provision under RSA 40:13 that the town could call a special meeting to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. So that is an option for the select board. Obviously, that does have cost, time associated with it, and the department heads are here to prepared to speak with you on the default budget and the impact it will have.
Okay, if we've got everybody here, then this seems like a good place to start.
Bring them,
Yeah, you want to invite them up to the
yeah,
table?
bring them all up, have them
Sure.
sit. The department heads,
All the, yeah. Let's have a little round table, a little square round table.
Derek, do they all have this?
So yes, all the departments heads do have, this is a year-to-date budget report showing what the default budget is and what those lines are. And then on the second to last page, page 20, are the special articles that were approved at town meeting. So we've been working as department heads starting last week to go through the individual lines to start to look at the impact. I think we have some questions for the select board looking for some direction. One of the biggest items in a default budget, again, as we presented through the fall, is on the town side, 50% of our employees are non-union employees, so we've got about 80 employees that fit that, and their step increases were included in the proposed budget. They are not in the default budget. I would say at this time, as departments have gone through to maintain services, even with some cuts to some of the equipment and some of the training, some of the other stuff that we have, at this time, we don't see a way to move those steps forward. We think, when we advise the select board, that if we can achieve additional savings during the year, perhaps the department heads working with the select board can come back and look at options to make up that difference, because there are 4 unions in the town, as well as the school unions and the school non-union employees that are all seeing increases this year. But at this time, we believe that we need to stay status quo with no increases for non-union employees.
And the reason for that, Derek, is because we can't assume that in the next budget, correct? Right? Even if we gave them step increases now, it would not be in the next budget.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of a tiered impact. If you gave people step increases, the default budget would be where they are as of the end of last year. So that was the issue that we ran into going before the budget committee in 2025. If we are able to achieve savings and do some type of compensation for increased compensation for non-union employees, it would be my recommendation that it be a one-time, whether it's a one-time default bonus or something like that to try and make up, but not actually modify the base wage. Because what you're doing is you're already building that gap in between default and proposed operating budget. But at this time, we're not ready to recommend that at all.
Because we don't have any savings to even get there, correct, Derek? So we need to find that.
Correct.
Derek, one question, because somebody had made a comment during the election time. If the school would have went in default, do they have non-union employees, and would they have still received increases? I'm just curious. And if they would have, how can they do that and we can't?
That's an excellent question for the school board. It's my understanding they have a pool of cash that they call their merit pool that they distribute amongst their non-union employees, and that is included in their default. That's, I guess, all I can say on that.
Is that something that we can propose next time around? Is that something that we can do when working with Budget Committee? Because, again, I think this is pretty impactful to our employees.
Absolutely, it's something that we can look at as we start to put together the 2027 budget, and we can see how that interacts with the default budget law.
Okay.
So each department head is here to kind of speak with you of how it will impact their operations, and as we go through the budget report, since admin is Department 11, that's the first one. There's a couple that I do, a couple of lines that I do need to highlight for you. The first is on page 2 of your printout, and that's under the elections, specifically stipends for elected officials. This is supervisors of the checklist and town moderators. Under the default budget, we have nothing budgeted in that line, and I would have to pull from other lines. We have paid out for the first 3 months of the year for that, but that would be approximately $7,000 additional cost that I do not have. So I would be looking for the board's direction on those elected official stipends. The next, actually staying in elections, as we started looking at elections and what we're actually using, I'm probably going to be asking for a transfer into the regular wages part-time. So far, out of a budget of $18,000 for those part-time employees, those poll workers, this past election we spent about $8,000, and we still have 2 elections to go this year. So I'm going to have to draw from somewhere else for that line. As you go to page 4, one of the biggest increases that we have annually is our information technology. This is increases for hardware, software, internet, and mobile communications. We're seeing a significant increase in the cost of laptops and desktops. We're also seeing an increase in our software licenses. So again, we don't have a full budget to propose to you this evening, but I would say that I am going to need the proposed budget that we proposed, which is $65,000 more than what you see in IT here for those lines, is an additional $65,000. We have identified savings in other lines. Again, we did have a retirement in the admin department that the replacement started today, so we do have some savings there. We do have savings in some other lines, but we've got that. The other item is in the fall, the board approved an on-call stipend for employees at IT, police, and DPW. While DPW had been received on-call in years prior, it was not actually built into the budget. So I've got, that would be an additional $13,000 that I'll need in information technology to maintain that. I think those are really my 3 really big items.
Can you just give
Gary,
me...
what did we propose for the elections in the proposed budget?
I think it was it 20,000? Let me, hold on, let me get to, so even what I proposed would not have been,
18, that was proposed for wages.
so 18 was proposed. Yeah, so 18 was proposed, so we would have still been short under that, where what we would have done is made it up elsewhere, but not having that, that available to us, I at least need to highlight that now.
Yeah, crazy thought. Would we save money if we actually went to one polling place?
So the difficult thing about the polling place is, it's my understanding that in the 60s, it went to the town voters, and the town voters voted to hold elections at 2 polling locations. The Secretary of State's office has advised us that if we were going to go back to 1 polling location, we would need to, once again, go and talk to the voters about that. So I can bring that forward to you at a future meeting if you want to investigate that further and see, talk to the Secretary of State's office and see what's required for that. So it's definitely something we can look at. My initial answer right now is you can't do it this year, but I think if we do a little bit more research, we can see.
I think we should propose it. I think we only had, what, about 600 voters that actually went to one place? All the rest went to the high school?
For town meeting, yes, yep. Yep. And then, although not in my department, Department 55, which is our insurance department, I think that's on page 7. During the budget process, the budget committee actually knocked our benefit line below what we have budgeted here in default. This is the only silver lining in default, is that 3.2 million, we are projected right now to hit that exactly on, and that's not taking into account the 1 or 2 new employees we're bringing on right now, but we're also have new families coming into, so we have people that are either on single or 2-person plans in the fire department that are going to be going to a family plan this summer because of pending births. So we're going to be very close on benefits. And then property insurance, as you can see there, the very last line on page 7, the default budget has 200,000 there. We've already expended 244,000, and then if we've got a $1,000 deductible for any incident, so we're going to be, probably 50 to 55,000 over expended in that line. So that is definitely something that we're going to need to transfer from another department into that department.
Derek, on the IT budget, what is actually pushing us over on that one? Is that the Microsoft 365 licensing, or is it something else?
No, it's not the Microsoft 365. The Microsoft 365, we're actually going to see a savings now that we've gone to the year-long model, or we're actually going to realize a savings there. It's just that we're seeing software license go up between 5 and 10% annually, and many of the departments have done a really good job of cutting software that we're not using. It's just that the default number is not sufficient when you see those types of increases. If we would have received our proposed budget in IT, I'm confident that our hardware, our software, internet, and mobile comm would have been fine. But because we're in a default, that's really the issue. But I'd be happy to answer any other questions about admin or the insurance line. Again, department heads have continue to go line by line. We've got kind of a working document that we're using, but we just kind of want to hit some of the high-level stuff and get some direction from the board. Specifically, the thing I'm looking for is what do you want to do with supervisors of the checklist and their elected official stipend. That's, I guess, the question that I kind of need answered tonight, because that will have an impact on at least my portion. And then if you'd like, we can go department by department.
My personal opinion on it, and others can weigh in, my personal opinion is we need to take care of the employees first before we even think about the elected officials.
Well, if that's the choice, I agree with you.
And it's not something I'm happy saying, I actually think that we need to take care of both of them. But like our employees, we need to make sure that we keep them, and we need to do as best we can to kind of dig whatever we can out of the budget.
I think I agree with that.
I do too.
Do you have any place in your budget to look for the money or have the money, Derek,
For what?
for the stipends and stuff
For
like
the
that?
elected, so right now, the town hall default number is $3,330,000. I've got it pared down to $3,330,000. I've got it right now at $3,339,000. I do have one expected medical leave that's going to have a little bit of savings there. I've got another couple lines that we've identified as potential savings. But right now, I am, after working on this for, 3 days and over the weekend, I still got about $9,000 over default, and that does not include the 7,000. That does not include the 7,000 for the supervisor of the checklist monthly stipend. It also doesn't include munis. Just a reminder, when we went through the budget last year, one of the projects was for putting our munis, our enterprise software, into the cloud. That was an additional cost of $35,000. That is a huge issue for us, because what New Hampshire is seeing is right now cyber attacks are actually targeting municipalities that host online munis. This is one of the things that New Hampshire, the New Hampshire IT group, as they get together, that's what they're actually seeing, is those that actually are hosting it online and people are VPNing into it are actually actively targeting those ones with munis. So that's actually a priority of something that I do not have in the default scenario, that I would like to find savings to get that in, because I think that is so critical to our operations. If we have some type of disaster, that's going to affect our payroll, that's going to affect our accounts payable, and there's also a ton of protected information on there. So to get that into cloud-based, where it is protected by a huge corporation that has thousands and thousands of municipal customers that have resources well above and beyond what we have to do that cybersecurity, is something that I still want to work towards. But right now, it's not in my default scenario.
How much is that?
Derek, how, 35 grand, right?
Yeah, it's an additional 35 grand annually, and so that's an annual software, because again, they'd be hosting the data. Again, I think Brian's done a wonderful job finding savings in other softwares, working with department heads to cast off other software that we're not fully using. So in future budgets, I don't think it's going to be that big a hit, especially with that savings that we achieved with the Office 365. But in this default budget, it's something that currently I don't see a way of putting it in there unless we become a donor, or a recipient department, and each department is very tight right now.
What was the total amount for the step increases for your department for the non-union employees that we would have been short?
I don't have it broken out by department, but townwide it was about $230,000.
Okay.
Obviously, that hits my budget more, I think, my budget and probably library, because we have the highest percentage of non-union employees at those two buildings. But 100% of both, to be exact.
Legal services, you had mentioned, we were pretty tight on that.
We were very tight last year. Right now, we're tracking pretty good on page 1 on the legal services, object code 45020. We're at about 25%, which is high for this time of year, but what I do is whenever I look at legal services in town hall, I also have it under planning and zoning, and I also have it some under assessing. Planning and zoning right now, we don't have any active court appeals. An active court appeal is going to cost us about $10,000 in a year. I have enough money for a couple active court appeals, so if we can just make it the next 3 or 4 months, we could have a potential savings there in this year. So I think I'm doing fine on legal services right now. It's all just going to depend on if we have any land use appeals.
And town hall, again, audit services?
Yeah, so audit services is actually a little bit higher in our default budget than what we need. That's because every 2 years we do what's called an OPEB audit. It's our other post-employment benefits. So that doesn't occur in this year, so that actually will drop out. So auditing services, we'll have a little bit of savings there, but what I've started to do is identify which lines I'm going to have savings in. Another big one is assessing consulting services. I think he had $25,000 in there. but in my proposed budget, I only had 7,500, so I had a significant reduction in the budget. But again, the default number comes in, but those savings in those two lines are what I need to hold up my IT hardware, software, internet lines. So that's kind of how it is throughout.
Derek, I notice, I'm just gonna do it. Several lines have a lot for postage. When I look through all the postage that's in here, even for like planning and zoning, like, just for the planning board alone, I know some of those packets get sent out via postage and other things like that. Are there reductions that we can do there in order to save money? Like people that are actually elected officials start coming and picking up their packets versus getting them mailed to them?
Yeah, we can look and see how much that costs. That's not something that I had considered. That's a good idea, and we can definitely look at that. That postage line also includes the notices we have to set out to abutting property owners by certified mail. So I think the bi-weekly, the twice a month packets that go out to board members is only a fraction, maybe about a third of those lines, but that's a good idea. The other small item that we've looked at is our tax collection and some of our other town clerks, some of the items they send out. We typically send a return envelope. Person still has to put the stamp on it, but it has our mailing address on it. We've already looked at, we're gathering numbers right now to see if it's worth sending that blank envelope in with the tax bill and with other things that people are just gonna have to put their own envelope in their own address.
It saves us money, Derek. I think that's what we need to look at.
Yep, and we are working on those things.
How about the food under elections?
So food under elections, we typically budget $4,000 per election. We went just slightly over with this one. That's definitely something that we could look at. There is no, we're not mandated. It is a little bit difficult. It's difficult. We might be able to reduce that to where we're having more snacks rather than sandwiches and stuff like that, but that's definitely something we can look at, and if the board wants to reduce that, we could make that call as we refine this.
Again, I don't think we would have gone over if we would have had one polling place, because a lot of food was wasted afterwards, and it was all brought into one location from Bartlett. Quite frankly, we wouldn't be spending as much on that if we actually had one location.
I think that's all I have for admin and insurance. Unless any board members have any other questions.
I'm good.
Okay, any department head itching to go?
Let's just go right down the line.
Well, I was gonna do that unless somebody's dying to get going.
I'll go first.
Okay, that's good.
I'll be probably brief. So I've been going through the library budget and looking for opportunities to save throughout the year, considering what operational areas we might make some adjustments to. Essentially, without impacting, at least to some degree, some of our materials and services, it'll be a little tricky to come up with anything significant. We are going to minimize any employee development, but that's what that line is just a,
May I ask what page you on?
I'm on
17.
17, sorry.
That's okay,
17.
no.
Employee development is $3,400. So we'll be really minimizing that. I'm looking to make a change to our monthly hoopla allotment. As you may recall, that's one of our electronic resources with immediate access to materials for users. Very, very popular, but it does give us immediate flexibility in reducing what we're putting out. So I'm looking at probably about a $4,500 savings, instituting the change April 1, and then assuming we keep with that change through the end of the year. And then some other little changes here and there for materials like our audio CD line is still definitely circulating. However, given that it's CDs and not everybody has a way to play them, we have been toying with the idea of experimenting with not spending as much. So this year might be a good year to try that out and see how it goes. The Library Board of Trustees will be meeting Wednesday night, and I'm sure we'll have a dialogue at that time as well.
So right now, are you tracking to the default budget, over it?
I am tracking over it a little bit.
By how much?
Right now, you're in the working document, you're right on.
Yeah, right now in the working document, she's right on. The one thing I will mention is library did have money in CIP.
Yeah, that's what tips us.
Then that's what tips her over. They had proposed 33,000. As you recall, they did the drainage improvements last year. The following year, you've got to go back and you actually have to finish the paving and the earthworks. So that had increased from 20,000 to 33,000 under default budget. That reduces back down to 20. It's our recommendation to. It's going to be our recommendation to follow through that project. Adam, I know Adam and Patty have talked about what DPW can help, but because it's paving, that's going to be highly impacted by asphalt pricing. So we've kind of marked in our working document to put the additional 13,000 there, hoping that that'll cover it.
Into our reclamation work, is that what I understand?
It's in a separate line, so it's not commingled in with Adam's. It is tracked as a separate library facility repairs that lives in our CIP. It's on, I think, the bottom of page 19. It's the very last line that shows $20,000 for facility repairs.
Great. Is that 20,000 in addition to the other 20,000, or is it 20,000 that we had for the repairs and we're still short 13?
Yes, it's the 20 and we're short 13. Could be short even more if liquid asphalt is high.
Well, that's why I'm wondering, can we pull some of that out of the reclamation work that we have to just get that done?
Yeah, I think we can. Obviously, to track it, that would be something we'd come back to the select board with for a budget transfer in the future. But yeah, I think the fact that they spent a significant amount of money on the drainage repairs last year, it's something that we do need to get that top coat on, so we protect the investment that was done last year.
Yeah, I mean, the money's not going to come from nowhere, so we're going to have to pull it from something. And that seems like what it should come out of.
Question for Adam. Adam, have you been given any direction as to the price of asphalt yet this year? I know it's early.
I don't want to jump ahead of the gang, but no, the state DOT pricing has not hit for March yet. They do a monthly update for liquid asphalt pricing. So that should be hitting in the next week or so. That's a little bit of a lagging indicator though, so we will, I'm sure, see another increase in April. Looking back, historically, kind of what jumps in some of these bigger situations, obviously, it's kind of unprecedented, so tough to say, but I'm expecting anywhere from 10 to 20% increase for asphalt this year.
Okay, that's what I didn't want to hear. That's great.
Any other questions for the library?
So we're just short for 13, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, and that's with no non-union increases and a reduction on, or I guess a modification to the hoopla.
Delightful. Police.
Good evening.
Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
Well, I'll start off with saying that in my 20 years experience here, and I've talked to some of my predecessors, we've fallen ourselves into a position here that I'm not proud to say we're in, but we have to do what we have to do. We're in a predicament with regards to our operations and kind of what we're supposed to do, where we're supposed to go with this, and how does it affect the community. Obviously, I have a duty under statutory law to public safety for this community, and I take that with a lot of pride. So some of the things that I'm going to be looking at this year to cut are probably going to affect some of our community events, because public safety comes before community events. That pains me to say that, but to give you guys a little bit of an update, I have to run that kind of by month to kind of see where we're at. One thing I'm concerned about is overtime. As you guys know, I have talked about this for at least in my tenure as a chief. We don't necessarily budget properly for every single hour that people are out, so we always have a little bit, we budget under than what we normally would if we had to cover every single shift. If you look back, I tend to budget pretty close to where we're at. I think last year we came in about $1,000 shy in overtime. I am concerned about that being in a default. I have to cover shifts, I have to cover holiday pays, I have to cover extra events. So we'll have to see how that runs this year. One thing that I'm kind of concerned about as well is employee development. You know, we have statutory trainings that we have to go to by law. Every officer has to complete 24 hours of training. We try to do that monthly. That is part of our training budget. It's part of our overtime budget. So we'll see how that goes. I basically have cut everything out of the budget that I think is not a necessity, and I hate saying this considering we just went through a budget process, but we're not going to be, you know, we cut a bunch of stuff out of the cars. If we have any issues with cruisers, we're going to have to see how that works. I cut that out. Gasoline, I'm worried about. We'll see how it goes with gas. It's been budgeted pretty well. I'm concerned that if we do have this war in Iran increases our gas and we breach this contract that our town has, we're going to have to figure out where that gas money is coming from. One thing that I'll pass on to the board, and it's food for thought for you guys down the road, we do employ 5 part-time crossing guards. I'm happy to announce that one of our crossing guards is back from being hit by a car in Pinardville. He's back today. Full duty. I don't know if this body wants to continue to pay for part-time crossing guards, which costs this town and our budget a substantial amount of money. I don't know if we want to have a conversation with the school board and see if they want to take that on. But historically, our department has always paid and trained and been in charge of the crossing guards. But seeing that we're in such a tight default budget, that might be something down the road we can discuss. Like I said, community policing, we have a budget line, crime prevention, that I have not cut yet, but that basically goes to everything that you see us out there doing that's extra. All of our national nights out, our Halloween safety nights that we do, trick-or-treating that you see the officers out there engaging with the community, our national night out, that big event that we host. If we don't have the overtime or the budget to do that, I don't think we're going to be able to host it.
What line is that, Chief?
That line, Jim, is crime prevention. Hold on, let me get it. It is 52,325, and that's on page 8.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what that page was.
Should be page 8, I believe.
it's-
Let me
No,
see.
9.
Page
No, page
9.
9, sorry.
52325, crime prevention.
So that also has our Comfort Dog Libby supplies that come out of that. It also goes towards DARE. When we graduated DARE class, we historically have always bought all the DARE students their t-shirts to show our respect and their graduation. We also have a ice cream social with them, so all the officers come. We host an ice cream social with them. That's another thing that we pay for. I'm worried a little bit about the commodities as well. We're gonna just basically cut the furniture, our radars. We're not gonna buy new radars. I'm gonna cut the furniture in half. We're not gonna replace any old desks that we have. First aid, we're gonna cut that. We're just not gonna buy any more first aid equipment for our police cars anymore. So if we respond, we'll just see when the ambulance can get there. We'll try to help out as best we can. Intoxilizer, that's the breath test. We're gonna cut that out. If we need extra equipment for it, we'll figure it out. I mean, I just don't know where else to cut. So, you know, the big things are gonna be keeping the lights on. Oh, go ahead, Josh, sorry.
Whoever was talking to go first, I'll ask my question next, please.
I got a question for the chief. Have you ever gone to the school board before and asked them to pay for the crossing guards?
No, sir.
Is it worth a shot? I mean,
I think it's worth a discussion.
yeah, I
for sure.
agree.
Can I expand on
I
that
mean,
for a
because it is
second?
helping during the school hours, sorry. Allison.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Allison.
No, let Josh go, because he keeps trying. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I think it would be worth school hours. I think the one question I had, Chief, is that you mentioned a lot of things that you're cutting out. Was that all things that were in the proposed budget or things that were also in the default budget that you're basically trimming?
I've asked for a lot of things in the proposed budget. What I'm cutting right now is to try to get to default. So some of the stuff that we're seeing, you know, in here that went to default, I just basically cut it in half to get it down to where we need to be for default for our budget. Did that make sense? I'm sorry.
It does. So the 8,000 that was for the crime prevention, that was for first night out, was that 8,000 just for that event?
No, that's total for the year, and I believe, I gotta look at where we were at. We budgeted for a little bit more because we had in the budget, we were trying to budget for another e-bike, so obviously we're not gonna be going for the e-bike. But what I'm saying is there is money allocated in that line for National Night Out, Dare, Halloween, senior lights tour that we do with the elderly at the end of the year, McDonald's events, Coffee with the Cop. So that's kind of one of those things that I don't feel comfortable pulling that yet, because I feel like that is our bread and butter for what we do as an agency besides public safety, is go out there and interact with our community and show people we're here for them. But, you know, at the end of the day, if we have to go into these deep cuts and we really have to start cutting things out and really moving money, then that's something that I want this board to understand. That's what's going to happen. We have to cut some of that stuff out. And all those events that we do, not only do they cost for us to be there, it costs our overtime line too, because some officers are there that are off duty, that are helping out.
So I'm going real deep. What about the cars, chief? Can we get rid of the cars? Skip a year? I know,
Yeah,
very touchy subject.
Here's what I'll say. We've gotten to a point through operational cuts, through what I've looked at, where we can get to our default number. If this board wants to cut cruisers, we can talk through that. And if that's where you want to, if you want to talk through it now, we can, but I don't want to take up everybody else's time. I would say that if we cut those cruisers, as we've done in the past, we will be behind the curveball, but could we get through a year? Sure we could. I don't know if we're gonna have problems or not, but.
What'd you say, Josh?
What's the total for that if we cut them?
So we have 196,000 or 197,000 in the default. I would just say, if the board's going to discuss that, think about the domino effects. Those cars make their way down the line.
Oh, yeah.
They move their way to command staff, down to DPW, down to building inspector here.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. It's one of the few capital items in your budget that isn't broken. I think over the last 3 or 4 years, the trucks at DPW, the road reclamation, nothing else is in our CIP, in our capital budget, is surviving the budget process. The only thing that has, I guess, survived that and is working on an annual basis is the cruisers.
Yeah, and I'll say, Mark, like, what I'm saying is, can we make it? Sure, but we've had cars that we've had to, fix, and if we're gonna, in my operational line, I'm already cutting, maintenance costs and stuff like that to go down to default, which, we've shown in the past, we've had to pay for maintenance costs. Could we defer a year? If we had to, we could, but if we start going down cruisers, all the other cruisers end up working harder throughout the year.
It's what we call kicking the can down the road, and I
Sure.
don't like it, but we have to try to find the money, and
I've gone through today, made some significant cuts to what I think, I'm not proud, I mean, we have to do it, it's part of what we have to do, but we'll make it work. We're at default, we're at that number, I know Josh will ask that, and I think we'll see where we go from there, but I'd have to monitor this budget, just like we always do, month by month, figure out where we're at.
Can I wrap back around to something you had mentioned, the crossing guards and having it be the responsibility of the school? Do we have any idea of, I know we've always talked about, or in budget, I've always heard how the school and the town have such great working relationships and that you guys do so much for each other, but how much of the town's budget is spent on school things? We're in a position where town's in default, school is not, they're fully funded, what they need, and you guys are losing on your on your budgets to do stuff for them?
Yeah, so
Do we-
for PD, and again, I've heard through, I'll start with, I've heard through our state, other agencies, other chiefs, a lot of them are in control of the crossing guards, some aren't, but for us, what we pay for the school, essentially that supports the schools, the crossing guards are our main component, and then our 2 SROs are in the schools. Now, we pay for their salaries, they work for us, they're on our team, they work in the patrol shift in the summer, they're also in the schools. So I wouldn't say that necessarily the school would pay for that, we pay for them, but we're there in the schools keeping them safe every day, 2 officers. That's basically PD. I'm sure there's other,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things each department does. We could definitely start to put together a list and what that amount,
Equates to.
is. If it's town staff, I don't know that, having the school reimburse us, while it helps us out on the tax collection side, it shifts some of the tax collection side from town to school. It doesn't help us with the appropriation. But if we have, especially if we have any contracted services, if there's any, commodity that we're buying that we're, that allowing the school to come and pick up, then that's definitely something we can.
I'm also thinking mostly Parks and Rec does a lot for the schools, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
But you know, when you look at that, yes, I mean, we mow everything, we prep every athletic contest, yes.
Right.
But then we also use their facilities, I mean, we inundate Mountain View Middle School with basketball.
Okay.
We inundate their gyms with practice, so we are doing an awful lot as well, you know, both ways.
Yeah, I was just curious, again, just from your
But
perspective.
I mean, if
whether
they
you
wanna
felt-
buy an $18,000 mower, that's great.
Yeah, you'd like that,
2.
2 of them? Okay.
Yes.
Rick, do we pay for any of that gym time or field time or anything
No,
like that?
no.
So it's quid pro quo, basically.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Minus us purchasing equipment to maintain their fields.
Say that again?
Yeah.
Minus,
Minus us purchasing equipment to maintain the fields.
right. Yeah, I mean, yes, all the equipment that we use commercially is being used on their properties and our properties. And the
that might be
man
more of a
hours
discussion.
as well.
Any more
Not
questions?
necessarily pay us to do your fields, but more like if you're gonna have some equipment out here, we need you to chip in for that, so that way we're not taking it out of town budget.
However you wanna rationalize it, yeah. Yeah.
I think Rick took over your presentation, Chief.
I'm good, I talked too much.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please, I'm good.
We okay with, everybody okay with police?
Yep.
Okay. Rick?
As far as the operating budget goes, looking at the default budget,
What page can you set?
I guess I'm on page 16.
Thank you.
And I guess I'm looking at, I have an original adoption and revised, and I'm assuming these are both default. That's what that equates to, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. When I went through this, basically, we'll be able to function at like a $637,307 amount, which is a couple bucks below the default budget. You want me to go line by line? I mean, that's the bottom line.
What was that number again, Rick?
637.
$637,307.
So he's got about $3,000 of under default
Okay.
that he would be.
Is there stuff that you're not doing this year, Rick? With the courts, the pools, or something else in order to get that?
No, we're gonna limp along.
So no maintenance on any of the courts, no maintenance in the pools, nothing like that?
Not just anything that's in, like for the pools, we got $16,000 to make them work. We'll do what we can within the $16,000. If I find that, you know, I got some filter issues that are gonna go beyond, then that's another story. But for 16 years, we've been doing okay at that number. There's not gonna be anything fancy and warm and fuzzy, and we'll get it done.
I like get it done.
Okay,
You know, I think, one thing I did do is I increased the electricity line, because year end, we finished at 15,000 and 15,100. So I did increase that line, because that's reality. But other than that, we don't have any CIP that's being used through the town. We have some projects that were already allocated through the use of the revolving fund, which are not affected by this budget.
Okay, any more questions for Rick? Okay. Next, we'll go to fire. What page are you going to start on, Chief?
Looks like we're at page 11.
Okay, thank you.
So from the 2026 proposed to default to get me down to the default, the cut was about $130,000 to start with. Then we needed to cut an additional $64,000 because we have uncontrollable expenses that are increasing. Those are mainly related to the benefits. Derek already talked about that a little bit with New Hampshire retirement, that type of stuff. Regional hazmat increased expenses, state law required increases in annual physicals, maintenance contracts for the generators and stuff like that, utilities, and then the hydrant rentals, which obviously we saw a significant increase last year as well. So to get us down to that point, I had to cut 14 different lines in the fire department. The kind of three biggest impacts are the game well. As the board has already talked about, we know that is a significant issue. We have a plan to take it out of service. I did notify the schools that we will not have the money to repair it if it does go out of service this year, which could become an issue, and we'll have to deal with it as we can. But if that system goes down this year, we're not going to have the money to repair it. So it is going to go out of service and not be functional, and people who are on it using for monitoring will no longer have monitoring for it. Additionally, the equipment and PPE, our fire hose, our SCBAs, our structural gear, those all have life. The SCBA and structural gear have maximum allowable. We will be following that. We were trying to do some preventative, so end of life for fire hose and stuff like that. We know, very similar to the cruisers, we know when it's going to go out. Unfortunately, we will not be able to continue that this year. We're going to have to just hope that doesn't fail during operations and only replace it as it fails, or during our annual testing, which we do in-house already, so there's no money to be saved there. We can't outsource that. Along with the PPE, just want to remind everyone that will bring us back to only being able to retire the PPE that is up for maximum life. It will no longer allow us to replace the gear that we know has carcinogens in it. Just a reminder that the cancer in fire service is 1 in 3 right now, and this is a known carcinogen that we're exposing our employees to every single day, and we're not going to be able to replace that. However,
How much is that?
What's that?
How much is that?
How much is that?
So that we were looking at, so that's going to be your line 47950.
On page 12.
Yep. So we were trying to get that up to, for our 2026, some of proposed, we're trying to get that up to about 50,000, which would allow us to replace the 5 sets that we know we have to replace this year, as well as 5 additional sets. It will not, and like we talked about in my budget presentation, we know we don't have enough money to replace all of them at one time. We're trying to start getting ahead of the ball a little bit. So about $25,000 to answer your question. is the difference in those 5 sets. However, those 2 are the smallest lines that we cut to get back there. As I'm sure the board knows, long before me, our overtime line has not come within, we've been over our overtime line since 2019. Again, very similar to what the police were talking about, is how the budget works and how we budget for overtime. We do not do it effectively to meet the needs. We have been very good with recruitment efforts, but still, even though we have bodies in the positions, we have all the positions filled with bodies, still 1/3 of our department does not meet the minimum qualifications for the positions they hold, which means that we show up with people, but they might not be trained as firefighters, they're only trained as EMTs, or vice versa. We have 2 personnel that are going away to the fire academy here in a couple weeks, so they will not be back until June. That leaves 2 shifts short automatically there. So right now, we are looking at, I believe, sorry, I have my numbers here. $78,000 short of the proposed and $106,000 short of what we actually spent last year. So if we stay where I am right now, we are significantly decreased in the available overtime, which has forced me to already make operational changes. So we're not filling vacancies right now, and we're not even in the summertime yet. We also have 2 members that we've been notified could be getting pulled into military duty again. So this worries me significantly. This will result in us only being able to fill 2 spots per station. And if I can't fill that, then obviously we're going to be doing a lot of closures in the Bernardville station, rounding out the station over there. And that only leaves me 3 personnel, which only leaves me 1 company. So that means I can only handle 1 call. And as you remember from our presentation for our budget committee, about 30% of our calls, there's 2 calls going on simultaneously.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of fire trucks lately.
Yep. And as you saw from the budget presentation at the beginning of this year, our call volume has continued to increase. We have done substantial decreases in our service calls. So Captain Lavoie has helped us out a lot with that, instituting some things there. Us taking away the Gamewell system, us getting on top of the high-end users of our EMS system, us working with Hillsborough County as well as other facilities in town to require them to have contracts with private ambulance service has significantly decreased our calls to our top 5 volume addresses. However, even with those, as you saw, our numbers continue to increase. As we are aware, state stats came out 2026. The state of New Hampshire now, for the first time in history, has more people over 65 than it has under 18. And we know that is our largest group of users for medical care. And obviously with medical care rising, people are less likely to go to their doctors and then more likely to use us. So operationally, for the default, this has already made a significant hit in day-to-day operations. And just to maintain the current staffing that we had last year, I would need an additional $149,000.
How many positions are frozen already, Ben?
So we don't have any positions that are frozen, all of our positions are full. However, right now, I have directed the deputy and the lieutenants to only fill up to 4 people per shift instead of 6. And we will be, if we obviously, I realize what an ask it is to get additional money to get back up to that 6, but that's going to be a significant problem as we move forward. But we're going to monitor it month by month, and the other thing is that I need to everybody understand is We've talked about retention in this town, and we're now talking about showing up to a structure fire with 2 people on the truck, when all the towns around us have 4. And same thing for a medical call, and now they're not gonna have another crew in town to call for help for lifting. So now 2 people are gonna be lifting that bariatric patient instead of 4. So the workload that we're putting on our employees because of this, I have a really hard time looking at myself in the mirror when I'm asking our employees to do this.
You've advised the 2-man crew not to go in the burning building, right? I hope?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's the toughest thing,
Yeah.
is when you show up to that burning building and you know
Trust me.
somebody's in there.
I've been there.
I know you have. It's, and we've had that. I mean, the Sunny Ave fire. We had 1 engine crew and 2 people stuck inside a burning building. We were able to save 1 of them. And now we're cutting that staffing in half.
And the PPE,
Yep.
I'm concerned about having our employees actually wear stuff or use stuff that has carcinogens.
It does open us up to a little bit of liability on that. Yep. And we're talking with the E-Board on Wednesday, because they are a real big stakeholder of ours. I want to get the bodies, because Josh, what we're talking about, it's not much of a big difference. It's not going to make a big difference. Is right now I'm trying to figure out, do I increase staffing for a day or 2, or do I get a couple extra sets of PPE? That's my.
No, I understand that. Ben. But I mean, we also shouldn't be putting the firefighters or the EMTs or anybody at risk when they are in the position of actually trying to save somebody's life.
Yep. So we're gonna continue as we have been to look for other options for funding, for grants and stuff like that. But as we've talked about at the beginning of this budget season, the number of grants have gone down significantly, and even grants that we got last year that we had funding, the funding disappeared when we went for reimbursement. It's what the current administration's doing.
If you have to call in to Manchester or some other surrounding town for help, does that cost us?
No. However, when we're talking about mutual aid, it has to be mutual. So the difficulty is, for our call volume, we definitely need 2 crews. I can't put that on another town, because I don't want another town, and we've had it here in Goffstown, where other towns have not staffed appropriately, and our town has made notice to that town that, hey, we're gonna be making some changes and maybe saying no to you. Now towns are gonna be doing that to us.
Ben, how's the rapid recall been doing?
So rapid recall is great for the people. I will say I'm very proud of our full-time personnel that live in the area, but as we know with housing right now, nobody's going to be able to afford to move to Goffstown that isn't already here. So we're extremely limited. Luckily, I live in town and the deputies only one away. The command staff are very close, luckily, so we're going to be able to come back for that and help out as much as we possibly can. However, again, it's not the people on the ambulance every day, it's not the people on the engine every day. And they are, and the difficulty is with the volunteers and the call members, they do what they can, but everybody has to work extra jobs these days, and the return on investment, and as you very well know, we just, across the board, volunteerism is way down.
Yep.
And they don't have time to put into the trainings and stuff like that anymore. We're trying to use as many programs as we possibly can to get training and that type of stuff for them. But it's right now, I want to say our stat is 1 out of every 16 call members that we train, we actually get to stay more than 1 year. So and we're not the only department buying that. The state of New York right now is in actually looking at legal legislation to change because they're having such a hard time getting volunteers. They may have to go to county
Capitol
departments.
Fire Dispatch every day.
Yep.
Chief, you want a retone? Chief, you want a retone? To me, that's not a way to run a business, but
Yeah.
I know. Thank you for the information.
Any other questions, comments for the chief?
Just one question, Ben, and again, this is my ignorance, so I apologize.
No worries.
Can we do any volunteer firefighters in the town to help augment in any way, shape, or form?
So we have as probably Mark can speak to this much better than I can, the number of volunteers across the country, especially here in Goffstown, has significantly decreased. We are leveraging our call members as much as absolutely possible, and like I just said, is our last 16 call members that we've started, only one has stayed past a year.
I can attest that volunteerism has died for the most part in the last several years.
Yeah.
People do not step up.
And we're trying to work, we actually have a meeting coming up with CERT to try to get them back on board to help out where they can across town-wide. And they're seeing the exact same thing. They're like, how are we going to recruit the next generation? And I said that is the most difficult thing. It's not just for volunteerism. I mean, when I came into the full-time fire service, I had to do 2 days of testing against 73 other people for one position. Departments now go years with unfilled positions. Just nobody wants to get into public service anymore.
Thanks, Ben.
And when we talk about workloads like this, you can see why.
Okay, no other comments? Thank you, chief. And dump it on Adam.
All right. Well, I've got good news. We have $450,000 thanks to the voters of Goffstown for our road plan. So thank you for everybody that supported that, for sure. The roads need it. We can certainly spend it. As I alluded to earlier, though, we've got some pretty major unknowns this year, which will cut into the effectiveness of that. So just to kind of start at the top, for DPW, our default budget was about $148,000 below our proposed operating budget. As Derek mentioned, we don't have a lot of non-union staff, so our wage piece wasn't as big a percentage of our increase, but a few things in the solid waste world were the biggest contributors to that difference in default. And unfortunately, we can't just turn the spigot off on recycling and trash removal. So our tipping fees were a big contributor, about $37,000 on our proposed budget, up from default. Almost 22,000 of that, though, is the state surcharge that was added this year. So there's an offsetting revenue on the revenue side for that 21.7. So the other difference is an expected increase in April when our contract year turns over of 3%. But we do have a CPI escalator, so if CPI in solid waste goes crazy between now and April, we might see a little bit of a bigger hit there. One thing that's helping a little bit and enabled me to look at moving some numbers around to be able to make default is we're starting to see trash tonnage go down. So unlike the lagging indicator that is the asphalt pricing, trash tends to be a leading indicator of the overall economy. So we'll start to see those effects before other sectors necessarily. People will be buying fewer things, fewer construction starts, demos, that kind of thing. So we've actually been, we underspent our budget in 2025 for tipping. So I am anticipating, based upon that, we might have less tonnage in 2026 overall, which is good. On the other side of the house, recycling, as you know, we just are in the process of renewing our contract there, but as the monthly recycling markets go for commodities, so goes our cost to dispose of that recycling. Long ago are the days of the revenues from that, but right now we're just trying to avoid the full cost of landfilling by recycling. The good news is it's trending down. It was trending up at the tail end of last year after I submitted the budget, which was a little bit of a problem as we got through the process. It is starting to come down, not quite fast enough. We're still above what I had budgeted for the overall, the whole year per ton cost. But the thing with recycling is as the overall economy and oil prices go up, some of our revenues from recycled products starts to go up as well. So I anticipate we're going to continue to see that recycling, single stream recycling cost go down. So that'll be a nice offset as well. Danielle did a great job locking in an awesome price on our gas and diesel, as the chief mentioned. We're saving about just shy of $30,000 between highway and solid waste this year due to that great pricing. My big fear, of course, now when you start talking about conflicts is the force majeure. So if they pull the force majeure and say they can't honor the contract pricing for the full term, that could be a big hit for us. Likewise, where there's so much transportation involved, the pricing of salt is up in the air after June. Right now, we are locked in with the state contract pricing, so that'll get us through the end of, hopefully we're there, but hopefully the end of this winter. The big unknowns for the 2026 budget, though, are how heavy November and December are. You can have some years where there's almost no storms or none, and people play golf through January, and then some years where you hit hard and heavy. We are coming out of the winter of 25-26 in a tough spot, especially for overtime. We've encumbered fully our salt line, so that's why you see that at 100%, but we've got about $30,000 left in that line. That should be more than enough unless we get another, April Fool's, an April 2nd and April 3rd storm. We'll be okay for this winter here. It'll be coming into the fall, whether or not we're in good shape between what happens with salt pricing in July and then how many storms we have, which, we always want to have a little bit of kitty available, and if nothing else, we'll make sure the salt shed is full because I don't anticipate salt pricing will go down this summer. We've got a few items that will be forgoing, of course. Cemetery had proposed a new zero-turn mower and a headstone leveling jack system. So there's about $20,000 between those two items that we'll just be putting off. On the capital side of the house, we had the two big items that were left in the operating budget on the capital side were the roll-off truck, $285,000 there, and the F-550 dump and plow truck for $150,000. So both those, unless I'm directed otherwise, will be left off of the plans for this year. I'm operating under a couple big assumptions as we go through with a big number for the road plan, and so I'll kind of lay those out there and let the board tell me if I'm on the right track or if you've got different thoughts of how you want to handle this. So my first big assumption was that with the special article passing, the board would not be super hot to pull from road plan funding to do other things. It's hard because you don't really know the will of the voters on every single budget line, but one of the things you do know for sure is they wanted additional funds into roads. So unless I hear otherwise from the board, I'll be operating under that assumption that I'm not going to be taking road plan funding to buy a truck, for example. And stop me if you want to chat at any point. I'm presuming no other capital purchases, so the two trucks primarily would just be deferred. Certainly, if we wanted to try to do at least one of those, there'd be some pretty big operational changes. Usually the first places those show up are things like line striping, roadside mowing, catch basin cleaning. We've already cut back a little bit on those items last year, so to go underfunded by too much 2 years in a row, we start to run into problems, particularly with the roadside mowing where things that we can get with a mower turn into trees, which cost us a lot, and catch basin cleaning and pipe jetting. If we go too long, clogged pipe can either have private property damage concerns or inundated catch basins that require full reconstruction. So some of that maintenance we don't want to really defer. So unless I hear otherwise, that's the game plan, is to try to take the hit on the capital end of things rather than the operating end. And then the asphalt pricing. So I mentioned earlier, just based on a few blips in the past, anywhere from 10 to 20% is pretty likely here in the short run of an increase per ton. So that almost is a 10 to 20% reduction how much we can get done, even with the, you take the additional funds, but then we're taking off the top immediately. So what I think with some of these unknowns that we won't know real answers to, what I'd like to do is maybe build a tentative road plan for you folks that has a pretty good size holdback of funds for some of these other unknowns, and then assume that asphalt increase price, at least we'll have our base, what we want to get done no matter what this year, which will look pretty similar to the list I gave you back in whenever it was, November, December, with the budget process for the flatline budget. And then what we can do is maybe backload some of the overlays which require less upfront work for DPW staff. Nothing's ever quite a phone call for the pavers, but there are some overlays that are a little easier to schedule and slip in later on in the season. You don't want to overlay roads too late where things get cold, you get some dew, a lot of wet roads, that kind of thing, or cold pavement that'll pre-cool the asphalt as you pave it. So we wouldn't want to go too late in the season, but I think we could probably do a phased approach in with a road plan where I give you a base, and then as we get into May, June timeframe, hey, how are things looking, reassess, do we want to add a couple more to the plate, we can do that kind of as we progress into the summer. The other big unknown that I have right now, which the good news is I'll have the answer to, I hope soon, Montalona, we've got that grant project that we'll be opening bids on Thursday afternoon. As a reminder, that's a 90-10 split with the town, so even if the bids come in extremely high compared to what the estimates were back in 2022 when the grant was applied for and awarded here last year, we're only absorbing a portion of that, but it could still be a number that I have to do less elsewhere. Right now, we've spent a good portion of the town's match last year on last year's budget in the drainage maintenance lines and the consulting lines. It'll be similar here with this year. We do have the budget for it, but if that project comes in extremely high, I'll have to circle back around with you and talk about what we're going to not do, I guess, to pay for the additional share, because that money is going to disappear. We've already extended once, just based on their own inability to get the projects awarded back to the towns, and it seems like they're not very likely to extend any further. They want to get all that money spent by the end of 2026.
Adam, I have a couple comments, and then I have some really I'm going to apologize, they're going to be pointed questions, so please bear with me, okay?
Okay.
My comment is, I really would like to see us do work with the sewer commission if they're going to be tearing up roads in order to extend out our road budget as far as we can. So I know that hasn't been something that we've done in the last couple of years, but I think that's something we should be doing to extend that out. I know that you had a plan before, but I think the sewer commission and you should get together, figure out what roads they're doing, and we should extend the budget out as far as we can on that road.
I could speak to that. Sounds great on paper, and I don't disagree. We should be combining. The problem we have with sewer is when it becomes a sewer project that we do a DPW portion with, we end up actually paying more because of the cost of their contracted work. So we can do it.
That's something you guys can work through together, I think, is what needs to be done. So I think we should discuss that and figure it out. That's my comment on that.
So what their latest is, they are not interested in doing any major construction. If our budgets are tight, they're going to forgo and do some maintenance activities this year, but they understand.
We got to tighten up the budget. That's what we're looking to do, tighten up the budget. So then my second comment is, yes, I agree with you. The town voted for the $450,000 for the unassigned fund balance. That's what they voted for. We have the rest of the budget that sits inside of the default budget. So I wouldn't assume that that's necessarily locked in. I think it's something that we may have to consider. So then I want to start getting into some questions, which are the Packer truck. that we didn't get approved for again this year. How old is that?
It's 14 years old right now.
What's the next oldest one?
I think as of this year, 12. We got about 2 years
Okay.
in between.
How many times this past year have we had both trucks broken down, the two oldest, or the two newer ones, at the same time?
At the same time, I don't know about the two oldest at the same time, but when we've had at least 2 of the 4 trucks down at once, probably, I don't know, approaching 10% of the time that, you know, we're coming to the select board
My
with
personal
a...
opinion, that's an acceptable number. I think that one of the budget committee members made a suggestion that maybe we should get rid of that truck and we just have one as a fallback. I think that that's an acceptable thing. It's less maintenance for us to have to maintain. So I think we should consider getting rid of that truck. I know it's not going to help us in the budget necessarily, but it's going to help us not having to maintain the truck. And then I have some other follow-up questions around the maintenance side, because I see $140,000 in maintenance in there. Is that correct, for fleet maintenance?
For which budget line? We got it in a couple different places.
Okay, so my question, having looked at the bills over the last year, I see that we send a lot of stuff out to various different, like dealers and things like that to be fixed. So we have one mechanic currently, correct?
Nope, we have 2 mechanics and a shop supervisor working for me.
Okay, so we have 3 mechanics basically, that's what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So shop supervisor, is he also a mechanic?
Yes. Yep.
Why do we keep sending stuff out to other places? And why don't we pull that in? Because that's money that's leaving out when I expect the mechanics to actually get that work done.
Well, that presumes our mechanics are just not doing anything if we're sending stuff out. So what they're tasked with daily is to try to keep, depending on the season especially, solid waste equipment, highway emergency response equipment, the fire apparatus and the police cars, and then, I'm sorry, Rick and Jack, you guys are kind of next tier, but trying to juggle, okay, what is the operational need for the department to be the first thing worked on. Usually if it's red, it's getting in and out as a priority. And depending on
So I
what
think we should have a prioritized list, that's my comment, and a prioritized list of things that need to get fixed. And if it's the police cars, then the fire or whatever, we don't send stuff out to the shops anymore. We keep it in-house, and if that means we delay things, like trash doesn't get picked up in time, I think that we hold that off. That's my point of comment on it.
For the spring shop and stuff, because we can't do it in-house.
That's certainly something we can look at.
I think it'll save money.
Well, if we don't do anything, that saves a lot of money, but
Absolutely, it does. And if we
Yeah,
slow
we
down
should.
jobs, because that's what we're having to do in order to keep in the budget, so that way we hopefully can gather enough money to pay the employees that aren't actually, union, then that's what we should do.
Okay, any further
That's
comments?
the hard conversation that nobody wants to have, but that's what we're gonna have to do.
Is it too late to get rid of the trash truck?
respectfully, if you get rid of it, nothing happens. Usually when we get to this point in life, if we've deferred something so far with no end in sight, and no means no in this case, what happens is we wait, and if there's a big, if it blows an engine again, we'll come into the board and say, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to fix it? Do you want to not?
Those are my questions that I had, Adam. I haven't gone through the budget.
Any other questions for Adam? Comments?
So I think we've kind of identified some of our trouble spots. I think we've asked for some guidance, but maybe department heads could give you almost like a checklist of this is where the decision points are right now. Coming into this, we as department heads talked. you're not gonna solve this budget in one night. There are too many unknowns. There are too many things that annually we do not budget for that come up during the year, that we have to shift things around. We have to manage the budget. But I don't know if the board wants to give department heads direction tonight, or if you're looking for more of a prioritized list of questions so that we can propose at least an initial budget transfer so that we can have a little bit better working. I'd like to, I guess, get some feedback from the board members.
Richard?
Yeah, nobody's gonna like this, but I would like to know the details of holding a special meeting for another budget. Because at this point, what we're hearing here is that no matter where we go, we're gonna be seeing impacts to public safety, we're gonna be seeing impacts to community events. We're not in a situation where we're like, oh, we're in a default, so now we've all just got the message that we need to rein in spending on frivolous things that we just decide to pursue on a whim. We're losing critical services in this town, no matter how we solve this problem with this number.
And it'll be that way till we get out of the default.
I agree, I think that's a good idea. I mean, would you say it might cost a little money? But
Yeah, we can definitely have a plan for you for your
this-
meeting next Monday.
this is the first time I've heard safety is involved and you know, so we need to be careful about this, I think, so. I think
What is entailed with that? The special budget?
So having never done one, I can't advise you on that tonight. I can have that prepared for you and talk to you about that at your meeting next Monday.
Is that in itself gonna cost money?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. You'd have to have, whether you're gonna have to have supervisor, you currently pay your supervisor a checklist and your poll workers an hourly rate to check people in. If you're doing it as a traditional town meeting, you're gonna have to have supplies, you're gonna have to, absolutely. So can we minimize those? Potentially. I think when the school district put the warrant article on for possibly a special election relative to the GEA collective bargaining agreement, they estimated between $5,000 and $10,000.
Can I add, how long would it take to get that organized and going?
I've got to look at what the noticing requirements are, what, I think the last time this town has done one was back in 2011 when the ARA money that was coming out of the Great Recession, that was federal money. They did the water line betterment and some of the improvements down in Pinardville. So it's been 15 years, well before my time as town administrator, so I'd have to, I don't want to speak off the cuff or look it up now. I don't feel comfortable doing that.
So is there, what I'm wondering, is there a way that we can do something to minimize these problems that we've talked about all night here, other than have that special meeting?
So I think that's where you can look at, are there services or are there costs that we have in our budget that you want to reduce even further so you can prioritize other parts of the budget, whether it's overtime funds for fire department, whether it's that PPE that he's speaking about that has PFAS in it. If it really, we need the direction from the board. I think department heads over the next week can really drill down even further, and these are the questions we need answered, and these are the possible places. In the past, we've anticipated savings in our benefits line, and we've kind of used that for when issues come up. You cannot do that, and in fact, your insurance department right now, if everything proceeds, you're going to be underfunded in your townwide insurance because we are fully staffed and we anticipate people increasing on the plans that they have. So that has been kind of a catch-all solution in the past. That's not available to you. So I think we can, as department heads, do a little bit better job to bring some pointed questions for you to make some decisions, and then also provide you information about what a special town meeting would look like, the timing of that, and where that is, and then at your next meeting you can make some decisions on some of these items.
So I don't know about anybody else, but I've heard a whole lot, and it's like a salad that I don't know what's what and how to really tackle it at this point. So,
There's no good way to tackle it.
well, no, but there's got to be a methodical way to look at it, and I don't see the method yet, I guess. So more information, and if we have time to see if we can fix it without the special meeting, maybe we ought to give that a shot.
So yeah, special meeting is definitely one option. If you don't do a special meeting, it's a bottom line budget, so it's really through budget transfers and priorities by the board.
I worry, like, I assume, Derek, we have to get the votes right at a special meeting.
Yes, yep.
I worry that we're not gonna get the votes currently.
Yeah, I would say this budget failed 60-40 in terms of percentage.
Yeah. That's a good point, Josh. Okay.
But I can at least bring it so you can make an educated decision on what the timeline is, what you gain from that, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Allison, as a new member, hearing all this, thoughts?
You want
Wow,
out?
Josh, thanks.
You're welcome, I'm here for you.
I so appreciate that. I'm disheartened. I sat here on the budget committee and we worked really hard to get the budget down where we thought we were not going to impact any services. That was kind of our end line, is what we were shooting for. And here we are having to cut more, and we hear our department heads talking about not only are we impacting services, but we're impacting safety. And so while I can appreciate that it was a 60-40, I'm not sure that most people in the public, when they voted, I think that there was messaging out there that told them that there was waste in our budgets, and we're now hearing that there really isn't. And I think budget committee members knew that, most of them. Actually, even I think some of them knew it and didn't want to support it regardless. But I think having messaging that tells you that if we went through with a new budget, that if this doesn't pass, we are talking about cutting fire and police and our safety and our roads, other than the specifically voted on by the public, there might be a different perception of it, Messaging is everything, and maybe we didn't get out there enough that we worked really hard to cut the budget down. I mean, Peter Gorokakis going through and literally taking every single line and cutting. I mean, there were lines where he was cutting $50 to try to get our budget down as far as possible and maintaining our services. Had never been done before. And I don't think that we were given enough kind of credit, and him in particular, for what we did for work this season. So this is very disheartening to me as a person who loves this town, and it makes me sad.
Which circles us back to Elizabeth's suggestion that we have a joint meeting, so that doesn't happen again.
I do have a question, though. Since Goffstown's budget committee is not advisory, we have a statutory obligation, so I don't have any idea what role, if you have a special meeting, the budget committee plays in this, if at all. So I'm gonna have to look into that, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because technically, we're supposed to produce the budget. Now, does a special town meeting
So
take us out of the picture, or do we have to be the intermediaries, or,
Yeah.
I don't know.
and that's what I'll have clear guidance for you as soon as I can get that and distribute that, and then you can discuss it Monday night.
Okay. Okay, so can we get, I guess what I'm looking for is something that we can actually concentrate on, focus on, a list maybe, or of each.
Yeah, I think what we can
Each
do, I think
department's-
what we tried to do, it's a working document that's probably, some of them are probably changing here at the table as well. I mean, we've really been cracking away at it and didn't, I guess we kind of wanted to give you the high altitude look at it. I think each department we can get together again and kind of highlight where some of those places where we need decisions from the board and what I guess services, what commodities, what types of things you want to prioritize under that bottom line budget.
That would be helpful. Any other comments from the board?
Good.
London?
I just asked, yeah, Jim, I would ask you to get the department heads, do you have any questions for us specifically?
Good question.
No, I think it's, the questions all of us have is extremely difficult, as did the voters, but it's just.
This is a lot different than the default budget we had 2 years ago. That default budget was built on an operating budget that was updated to the commodity prices at the time. Then we had default, then we had a budget that was 1.7% bigger, and then a default budget. So this default budget is a lot different than 2 years ago.
Yeah, this default budget is lacking, you know, the rate of inflation now by threefold,
Yeah.
so.
It's definitely, as we've gone through it, I can speak for at least for myself, but probably some of the other department heads, this is a lot different than it was. And we're also, thankfully, we're fully staffed right now, whereas I think when we came into default 2 years ago, we had quite a few vacancies and we're able to leverage those savings. We are, I know at Town Hall, we're in the process of filling our last position right now, and the other departments are fully staffed, so.
Derek, that makes me think, there was a position that the budget committee did cut. That wouldn't have been cut from the default.
It was cut from both default and from proposed, yes.
So it got cut from both?
Yep, that's what the law requires you to do.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. I was hoping that was a little bit of money that we could grab.
Okay, we got a plan?
Yeah, I think we got some direction as department heads, we can come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all
Thanks,
for putting
everybody.
time and effort into this.
You want to do your report next?
Yeah, so at tab 4C, you have your action matrix that has the updated vehicle list. The only item added was a 6-wheel dump that's for it's out for warranty diagnosis and repairs. And then under tab 5A, as you'll recall, last June, the select board accepted a grant for $30,000 from the Department of Environmental Services for stormwater asset management. This is a program they've been working on. At that time, you named the select board chair, Peter Georganis, to sign all paperwork. DES has requested an updated signatory. So our recommendation is to designate the Department of Public Works Director, Adam Jacobs, as the authorized signatory for this revolving fund grant project.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Okay, any further comments, questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
We gotta do roll
Yes.
call.
Roll call,
Yeah.
yeah. Richard?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
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 Allison? Josh?
Yes.
Okay. 5.
So that's all that I have in your packet. I will remind board members, we do have a scheduled recount. There was one recount that was requested. That'll occur here at Town Hall Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And then I don't know if any board members have any questions about that.
Yeah, I think we got an email from you, Derek, and that's not on us to respond to that email, correct? Because, like, personally, I have no problem with anybody being in the room. I think that's for the clerk and the moderator to make that decision and come back with the rules.
Yeah, so right now I met with the new town clerk and the town moderator this morning. They are working on what procedure we will be following. They are tapped into other town clerks and moderators on how they handle that. So we will have a written procedure on how that's going to occur. It is a public recount, so the public can come in and view it if they want to, but it's very similar to working at the polls.
Yeah.
There will be like a
This side,
rail
yep.
where the public can be on one side, and then you will be part of the board of recount. So as election officials, you'll be on the other side actually doing the recount. But they're working on those rules right now, and I asked for them to send me a draft so I can get one to you ahead of time to review.
Yeah, and it will just be us, since we're not paid. I assume we're trying to keep it to unpaid, unpaid people to make sure that we're helping that out, because I hate to have us like incur more costs considering where the budget is right now.
Yeah, so again, your elected officials, the town moderator,
We get
and
to
the town clerk, that's part of your statutory duties. So yeah, you would not be paid for that. Right now, it looks like the only other staff that will be there is, I'll be present to provide administrative support. Getting the ballots out of the vault, bringing them, providing any supplies or anything that you need, that kind of thing.
Okay, any other
That's only the
questions?
town officers, right?
You all set?
Just the
Okay,
town officers is the only one that we're doing the recount on?
For budget committee.
Yeah,
So budget committee is what we received a request for. Again, there was just over 3,300 ballots cast. We expect that it's probably going to take you about 3 hours, give or take, to complete that process. Because you have to, by law, hand recount them.
Yep.
all
Okay.
right, sounds great.
you all set?
I'll be looking forward to seeing everybody.
Okay. It says, anybody here for public comment? I don't see anyone, so we'll close public comment. And I'll take a motion. I'm gonna screw this part up.
Make a motion to go into RSA 91A:32, compensation of public employee. Anything else, Derek, or is that it?
No, that's it. No, that's it.
A second, anyone?
Seconded.
Okay, voice,
Yes?
yes.
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. We'll get you set up for now.